Sam Healey, oh really, it's top 100 games. Sam Healey, oh really, it's top 100 games. Sam won't be caught dead playing roads and boats. When people make him mad, he wants to punch him in the throats. Not the kind of grumpy, but he's also kind of fun. He's an army of one.
Well, hey folks, welcome to my 2016 Top 100 Games of All Time. For me personally speaking, of course. Now, I did this list without looking at the last time I did this list, which was 2 years ago. 2014 is when I did my last Top 100 list. So, shockingly, either I need to do this kind of list more often, or the last couple of years have had a lot of really cool games from my perspective, because here goes, listen, 50 new games are on my list. That's right, only half of 2014's list remains for this year, and 50 new games have come out, and I to such an extent that I have put them on my top 100. So that is kind of strange, I guess. At least it feels kind of strange, but I think it's a great list. I really do. Even comparing 2014's list to 2016's list, I think this is a better list of games than that last one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first installment, number 100 to 91. Let's hit it. So my number 100 is a game that I've talked about recently on a top 10 list, because that top 10 list was talking about games that we really shouldn't like, but we do anyway. And this game is called Augustus. My number 100 is Augustus, and it is a game that is basically gamer bingo, because one person draws tiles and says what they are. You take one of your little soldier meeples or miniatures, puts them on that icon on one of your provinces that you're trying to score in your tableau, and if you complete all of the objectives on one of those provinces, you can score it. It's just bingo. So I really shouldn't like this. It was at 30 last time, so that was 2 years ago, and I think probably it slipped so far simply because it just hasn't been played as often as I would have liked it to stay higher up on the list. But I still really enjoy the game. It still just squeaks in at number 100, Augustus. Now, my number 99 was at number 36 last year. 36 was, that's pretty high, especially seeing how it slipped down 2/3 of my list to number 99. Well, it's Catan Geographies Germany. Quite frankly, the fact that there's a Catan game on my list says something about this particular game. I like how you can get points in different ways by building the different visual landmarks that are in Germany, all of the historical landmarks that are there. And they give you certain bonuses, like you can build a couple extra roads, or you get a couple extra wheat, or whatever it might be for building that specific monument or landmark. I also like how the board is created from a historical standpoint, because each region on the board is producing that region because that's what that part of the country has created in the past, and that's what they're known for. Really like that. It comes with an almanac that explains a lot of different things about Germany. Just a very historically cool and accurate version of Catan. That's why it made my list. Number 99, Catan Geographies Germany. Now, my number 98 is a brand new game to the list. It's one of the 50 that I told you about earlier. And I got introduced to this back at UK Gaming Expo back in June, I think it was, and really enjoyed it. I can play it with my entire family competitively now, not just, taking it easy on the kids. Any one of the family can win this game. That is ice cool. A very cool flicking game where you're taking penguins that are in high school and you're flicking them around the board, trying to get them to go collect the snacks that are hanging from the doorways. And the first person to get all three of their stacks, well, that ends the round, and then the next round begins. In addition to that, one person gets to be the hall monitor, and if they catch by running into the little penguins, weeble wobble penguins, if they catch the other players, penguins, before they get all their snacks, well, then they've won the round. So it's a really neat game. A lot of interesting ways to flick the penguins to make them do different things, curve around corners, jump over the windows, and all this kind of stuff. Really cool. My number 98, Ice Cool. My number 97 is another game that's brand new to the list, and that's because it just came out this year. And my number 97 is Scythe. Now, I was very apprehensive about this game because I first heard that it was a game that was created. They created a theme first before they started creating the mechanisms and the game that goes around it, and that just is kind of backwards. So I wasn't really sure how this was going to catch on, but was able to play this also at UK Gaming Expo this year and had a great time. I love the complexity that's there, but it's kind of simple complexity. I know that's kind of weird to say that, but it is a complex game, but it's a very simple game to play as well. Has some weird scoring things in it. You know, the first person to get all their stars completed, and that ends the game, and that can be a rather abrupt ending to the game, but I really still enjoy the game. The area control aspect, the worker placement aspect, all of that is really cool. My number 97, Scythe. Now my number 96 was at number 75 last time I did this list 2 years ago, and it is that good old German post office themed game, Turn and Taxis. I really enjoy this game still. It has a really neat Ticket to Ride feel to it, but it has that really quirky theme that's added onto it that just makes it a little bit different. The two expansions, I enjoyed both of them because they changed up the game just a little bit, enough to make it more interesting. So with the expansions, this has a lot of staying power, and that's why it's still on my list at number 96, Turn and Taxis. My number 95 is also one of those evergreens as far as I'm concerned because it has been on my shelf ever since I've owned it. I've never even thought about getting rid of it. It's a tile laying game where you're trying to create the best sushi combinations, and that is wasabi. Now, this was at number 67 2 years ago, so it has slipped a bit, but that's probably just because I don't play it as much as I'd like to here and now. So wasabi is a really cool game, has a beautiful board, really great little screens that they're called menus that you put your ingredient so you can keep track of what kind of sushi that you're trying to build and in what order they need to be in, so you can get extra wasabi cubes that are extra points at the end of the game. Really fun game. I enjoyed it a lot. Great family game. My number 95 is Wasabi. Now, my number 94 is a game that I've always really enjoyed. I love games that kind of simulate racing things, and this is one of those that do it. Now, it was at number 61 a couple of years ago, so it has slipped a bit, but Formula D is still one of my favorite games ever because I really just enjoy the fun time of just rolling a die, seeing how far you can go, and moving that, having to navigate the turns correctly, and not having to slow down too much so you can speed up faster. I love all of that. And it's one of those games that you can play simply, where you're just rolling dice and just trying to correctly navigate the turns, or you can play a much more detailed game where you're having to keep track of your brakes, and you're having to keep track of how your engine's doing, and you're having to keep track of the damage that you're getting on the car as you drive through and how it's affecting your race. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do that. Plus, they've added a street racing side of it as well. And they have expansion maps upon expansion maps for this. So I really, really enjoy this game. I knew it was going to make my list. I just didn't know where. I was kind of surprised that it slipped so much, but that, I think, is just because there's so many good games coming out. So my number 94, Formula D. My number 93 is a brand new game that just came out at Gen Con this year, and it's called Myth. Yes, I pronounced it correctly, Myth. It is basically where you are trying to take a warrior knight mouse and travel through these dangerous lands to go fight the dragon who stole the magical cheese, and you are going to get that cheese and bring it back to your village and be the hero. But it has a really cool mechanism where you have a hand of cards, but you can't use your cards. You have to blindly choose from everybody else's hand, and that tells you how far you can move. Maybe you'll stop, maybe you'll be able to go forward. you have to keep track of those cards in the other people's hands. And then it's just a lot of fun. Some people have said that it kind of bogs down at the end. I haven't experienced that. I've always had a great time with this. My number 93, one of the new 50, Myth. My number 92 is also a new game this year, and it just came out a few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, I would imagine, and it is called Mechs versus Minions. Now, this is a really low price tag game that gives you a ton of miniatures, and the reason that is because the company that produces it already has a lot of money from their League of Legends game. So Riot Games is putting out Mechs versus Minions, and it is a cool little cooperative programming game where all of the different mechs are trying to work together to destroy all of the minions and also achieve some type of scenario objective. Really cool thing. I really enjoyed it a lot. My number 92, Mechs versus Minions. And my number 91 is also a new game to the list, and it is a pirate-themed game. I love pirate-themed games. I have a joy playing them. This one is one that has a lot of dice to it, so I really enjoyed it as well. And this one is called Pirates of the Seven Seas. Now, Rattle Battle Grab the Loot had a very similar mechanic where you take the dice, and the dice represent how many ships you're sending into battle, and you throw them into the lid of the game, and where they land is helps determine what kind of battles they're going to do, who they can attack and who they can't, all this kind of thing. And with Rattle Grab the Loot, it didn't work very well, but with this one, it works incredibly well, and I don't know exactly why, because it's a very similar mechanic, but it just works better, I guess. The box top isn't as deep as it is with Rattle Battle Grab the Loot, so maybe that has something to do with it. I just really enjoy. Each person has a hand of characters, and those characters give them special abilities that they can do during their turn, so there's an action role selection aspect to it as well. Really enjoy Pirates of the Seven Seas, my number 91. So that is the first installment in my top 100 games of all time. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. That's okay. Either way, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll hit you up and talk to you about it as well. Until next time, we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.